Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. And today we have Holden Culotta from the Forward Party. I hope I didn't butcher his name. I've been practicing it. He is going to be on here discussing what the Forward Party is about and what some of his perspectives are. And we will go over a few other little things, but before we do all of that, let me bring him to the forefront. Hello, Cole. Holden, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on today.
It's awesome. I have listened to you in quite a few Twitter spaces. I have gone to on Mondays. You have these rooms that you hold. After today's show, you got a thing going on the space race. So lots of good things going here, Holden. Thank you. It's an honor for you to be here. It is. It is. So
yeah, thanks so much. I'm glad to be here. Always glad to have you in the Twitter Spaces. I'm happy that so many people get what they do out of it. You know, a lot of people say, these kinds of just talking about policy without getting mad at each other and having common sense conversations is so rare, and people really cherish that. And I'm glad we can provide that.
Definitely. And I love good common sense conversations. But before we get into our good common sense conversations, let's know a little bit more about you. Is it true that you were in a movie?
It's a secret. No. Yeah, like 10, 12 years ago, I was in a movie, very short movie. It was a college senior was doing his senior thesis, and he produced this short film. It was like 15 minutes long. It was super artsy, it was strange, but it was really cool. So yeah, 10 years ago or so, I had that experience. And actually funny moment from that I'll share with you. It was called Waterfall, and it was very water based. He did a lot with like the imagery of different water and stuff. And so a lot of the filming, I was standing in water with like boots. And there was one point where I had to stand in the same spot for a while for a shoot, and I could feel myself start sinking in to the ground. But being like 10-year-old, this is my first movie I'm doing, I'm like so excited. I didn't mention anything. I was like, I'll just power through this is fine. And so next thing I know, like my boots are filled. This is the middle of December, by the way, like freezing.
Oh my God.
So the next thing I know, my boots are filled with water. And in my attempt to just keep things running smoothly, we ended up having to take an hour break so I could recover.
Now, I saw on it when I looked it up on IMDb, there was another Culotta on there. Is that
my sister? Yeah, she actually did the movie as well. It was he was looking for a brother and sister to act. So
excellent. All right. Well, tell me a little bit more about yourself, including I hear you're going to Southern Connecticut State University, and that's where you discovered that it's no good being a Democrat. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what's inspiring you and things like that in relation to the Forward Party, and what drove you to, vote Democratic and leave the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so first of all, I was a little bit of a fake Democrat. I was independent when I first registered, and ultimately just registered Democrat to vote for Andrew Yang in the 2020 primaries.
Okay.
So I'm kind of a fake Democrat, but I'm a political science major at Southern Connecticut State University. I made that decision to go to college after 2 gap years as well, because after I graduated high school back in 2019, I had no idea what I wanted to do next, and took a gap year. And during that year, decided to go to Iowa and New Hampshire to campaign for Andrew Yang, go door to door, all that campaigning. And from that experience, I kind of started thinking, politics, this is my passion. This is where I really feel like I'm doing, something that I really want to do. And I kind of just stuck with it since then. When the Forward Party was announced, I jumped right on board. I was all on board for it, and was also coming from a similar place as Andrew, where he championed UBI in 2020, Universal Basic Income, and then afterwards was kind of thinking, this system doesn't seem designed to solve any problems. So I kind of had the same experience of thinking, we need a new party, we need a new system, we need something pretty different here. And yeah, I've been working with the Forward Party since then. I'm still in school as well. I started college in fall 2021, so I still have a couple of years of that left as well.
All right. And what was your major again? Political science?
Correct.
Oh, wow. What's your minor?
I was thinking of doing a history minor actually recently. I might do that, but currently I don't have one.
Okay. Philosophy is always a good minor.
I am a big fan of philosophy. My favorite class right now is a philosophy class, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the philosophy class you're in, is it just like basic 101 philosophy, or is it critical thinking?
I think it's a little of both. It's kind of a mix of religion and philosophy. So
Okay.
it's looking at religions throughout the past and comparing it with philosophy and science and all these different things. I find it fascinating. It's interesting that there's a lot of truths that seem to come out of the past, that humans knew, were more in tune with nature, more in tune with the world, that we seem to reject today, that I think I'm personally really fascinated in.
Definitely. You get a chance and all that. If they offer like a critical thinking philosophy, I highly encourage it. I utilize that in part of the book that I wrote. I basically initiate how I think throughout my book by describing the aspects of certain parts of critical thinking. So it's, even if you take it just to take it, I highly encourage it. Like I said, I've listened to you in a lot of spaces and stuff like that. I think you're already wise beyond your years on a lot of things, but I think it would also help you along the way on being able to look at certain things maybe with a different perspective, taking a step back on some things and make you think a little deeper on stuff. But for right now, I really love what you're putting out there. So, as far as the Forward Party goes, what's your biggest aspect in relation to the Forward Party? Was it just simply the UBI, or was there other aspects of Forward Party and Andrew Yang that brought you into this aspect, or was it just all Andrew Yang, or did you have things of your own that you really wanted to bring into it?
I'll talk about, there is something I would love to bring into it, which I'll talk about in a second, but the drive for me was really election reform. I was a supporter of UBI in 2020, and, as I said before, kind of, it seems like the system is not designed for change. If 90% of our elections are not competitive, which they were in 2022, then there's no avenue for any change to be adopted, any common sense solutions, no matter how common sense they may be. So my draw, the biggest aspects of the Forward Party that drew me is that election reform, saying this system has to change in order for any of our problems to be solved. We can't start thinking about these top big, national issues until we actually have a system that is able to reflect the people's will. Something I would like to see them focus on in the future that, is the topic of our space tonight, and I'd certainly talk about a lot, is space. I think, there's a certain cultural element, I think, of America that we've had up until very recently, is this kind of frontier mindset. We had there's the California gold rush. I mean, if you go back to the founding fathers, it's, like rejecting the British Empire was pretty revolutionary. You go forward to the gold rush, you go forward to the space race to the moon. I think there's an element of cultural cohesion and an element of our national identity that we have lost. that I think pushing to go back to the moon, to go to Mars, I think it would serve as kind of a healing force to the culture wars, because it's something that's nonpartisan. It's something that's, this will advance humanity. This will be great for America. This will inspire American kids and kids around the world, So it's not to say this will solve all our problems, but I think it's a cultural element that, could serve as an antidote to the culture wars.
I kind of agree with that. I think we need to go to the moon and Mars for a lot of other reasons too. But
Yeah.
and I'll get into that tonight on the space with you. Let's go back to the voting. I hear a lot of people talk about we need a new way to we need a new system. We need to abolish the electoral college. I don't think a lot of people realize that the electoral college is part of our Constitution. It's in Article 2. I think it starts at like the second paragraph of Article 2. If you haven't read the Constitution, just go to Amazon, and for about $3 to $5, you can.
I have one. I have a copy in my jacket pocket.
There you go. So outside of, since we probably are not going to be able to write an amendment and have it pass to abolish the electoral college, how is it that you would change the whole voting system to make it more equal? What kind of ideas do you have there? What kind of plan would you implement to do that?
We would use the model that 3 states have successfully used so far. I think, from a top-down perspective, the US is a very decentralized system. And so you kind of need a decentralized approach in order to reform it. So Alaska, Maine, and Nevada have each passed ranked choice voting and nonpartisan primary, or Alaska and Nevada passed 2, and Maine passed just ranked choice voting through citizen ballot referendums. So that's, a form of direct democracy. You can collect signatures, put in an initiative like ranked choice voting on the ballot, and voters vote directly on it rather than, trying to get it through a Congress where there's Democrats and Republicans who, passing this would threaten their job security. So it's difficult to imagine, that it would get passed by a legislature. So that's the plan of, how they get implemented is state level referendums, which 24 states have around the country. You can do this at the city level too. And once you have a certain level of momentum, there's 3 states that have done these reforms so far. Once you get to a certain point, then it does become realistic to reach out to the other states that don't have ballot referendums. Because, if it has momentum building around the country, other states are doing it, then it becomes a more realistic proposal. But to start, those 24 states with ballot referendums are the focus.
Okay. Now, for those in our audience that do not know what ranked choice voting is, could you give a slight breakdown of that?
Yeah, ranked choice voting, it's an alternative voting system where instead of voting for one candidate or the other, you rank your choices like 1, 2, 3, your first choice, second choice, and third choice. So what this does is it reduces partisanship by, if you're a candidate, you now have to win the second place votes of other voters in order to be elected. If you don't get that first 50%. So here's how it works. If a candidate gets 50% in the first round, then they would be elected. It's just 50%, you need the majority to win. If no candidate gets 50% of the first place votes, then the candidate with the fewest first place votes is eliminated, and that candidate's votes are redistributed. So everyone who put the losing candidate first now has their second choice considered. So as a candidate, you would now be incentivized to find common ground with your opponents rather than pointing out divisions. Because currently the incentive is to point out divisions. It's just, you want to point out, you can't vote for that person is the devil, they'll destroy the country, all this stuff, because you just want to motivate your party base to turn out. That's how it works now. With ranked choice voting, though, you have to earn the second place votes of some of these people. You have, in order to win, to get that majority, because you have to earn the 50% to win. So that's ranked choice voting. And there's 2 other voting reform proposals that Forward Party proposes as well, saying, each state can choose whichever one they prefer. I know there's some people have concerns with ranked choice voting about, for example, centralized ballot counting is, I think, the biggest concern with ranked choice voting. So there's some other alternatives that we propose too, which is approval voting and star voting. And approval voting, you just select each candidate you approve of. So it's not, ranking or any preference like that. It's just, I approve of this candidate, this candidate, this candidate. And star voting is kind of a mix of the two, where you rate each candidate on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. So you can see they're each, slightly different. They take each a little bit of a different approach, but they each have the same core goal of, disincentivizing partisanship and getting candidates to work together again.
I like it. I like it. I've heard a lot of these different aspects, and the thing that I like best about it is that it helps reduce the partisanship aspect, because I'm personally for eliminating all parties. I don't want any parties, and if we can get rid of all parties, then that would allow people to dig into who they're voting for a little bit more. We got Ossia on here. She good to see both of you. Holden, do you think UBI will become more of a focus again for Forward due to the expected job displacement with advanced AI? Hold that thought on that. We will get to that. Ossia, that's a good question. I'll let me star that, and I will bring that question back up. With the Forward Party, I want to bring up the website real quick before we get into more discussions on things, because I saw Andrew Yang on Bill Maher the other day, and this is kind of what I got from him. When you go to the Forward Party, voting reform, let me take this back a second here. Our core principles. And when you go to the core principles and you hit free people, it talks about our platform. And I want to read this. Americans can fix any problem. And I agree with this. Americans can do this because America has been through a lot of crap, and we've done a lot of things to better this country in a multitude of ways. That is why Forward is approaching a platform differently. The rigid, top-down, one-size-fit-all platforms of the outdated political parties are drifting towards the fringes, making solutions impossible. We stand for doing, not dividing. That means rejecting the far left and far right and pursuing common ground. 3 priorities will unite our broad coalition and serve as a springboard for policymaking by Forward Party candidates and leaders of all levels. Free people, revitalize a culture that celebrates difference and individual choice, rejects hate, and removes barriers so that each of us can rise to our full potential. Thriving communities, reinvigorate a fair, flourishing economy and open society where everyone can live a good life and is safe in the places where we learn, work, and live. Vibrant democracy, reform our republic to give Americans more choices in elections, more confidence in a government that works, and more to say in our future. So voting reform, nonpartisan primaries, independent redistricting commissions. I love this. And granted, I'm still not going to join the Forward Party. And let me be clear as to why, because until I see things happen in my eyes, because again, I at one time was a Democrat. And when I found out that the Democrats did not truly represent me, I left the Democratic Party and I became an independent. And now I want results. And the 2 parties are not giving me results. So when I see a third party, that someone that's trying to be a third party, I need results. I need to know that you truly represent me, the human being, and not the corporation. So I think this is a good startup and a right direction to go. So I guess my question then is going to come back to, before we get into the nitty gritty of the direct politics. Um, what direction? All right, let me make sure I phrase this right. We have people that have a lot of passion and a lot of fire, and want you to move faster and do things. Okay, can you explain to me why it's taking so long for Forward Party to establish itself?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit about this before, but I will first point out that Forward Party is still very young. We merged with the Sam and Ram Party in July 2022, which was less than a year ago, and it was first announced in fall 2021. So it's still a brand new party, just for that context. But it is on us to prove that we can do this. You know, this is a tall order. It's something that no third party has succeeded at since the 1850s. And it is on us to prove that we can do that. So our approach to getting that done is starting locally. First, starting locally, and second, working on these voting reforms so that we can make an impact beyond locally. But the thing that sets Forward apart, in my mind, is when you go back to the 1850s, the founding of the Republican Party, they were founded in 1854 and made a point of focusing on local elections. They made a point of focusing on races they were capable of winning. And over the course of several years, that built them a legitimate party network where they were able to address people's local concerns and also build a platform, a foundation for a later presidential run, which ultimately came in 1860, just 6 years after they were formed. So what I would say about Forward is that, we are taking a very different approach than modern third parties are, where, we're looking to this model of building a foundation so that we can one day get to a nationally credible party. But that foundation has to come first, that those local elections have to come first. And I think we're going to start delivering for people in ways that, the two parties aren't even capable of doing today. Where in Connecticut, for example, I talk with a lot of people who our towns are just being like the same partisanship that you see at the national level that we've had for years is now reaching down and infecting our local politics. I mean, I remember in my town, for example, in 2021, our Board of Education election was just entirely about critical race theory, which had nothing to do with our town. It's, like it wasn't being taught in our high schools. It was this national issue, this national divide that's seeping into a local race when it's not relevant for our community. This isn't an issue that, matters in our community because it's not relevant to us. So that's what you're seeing now. And that's where I think the Forward Party makes a difference, is that if we can get into those local offices, we're going to start making change by fixing infrastructure that's currently falling apart as, this polarization is preventing things from being done. Basic things like infrastructure, like cleaning up potholes, like cleaning up parks. And from there, I think you really start to build a brand as a party that is getting shit done. We're solving problems. And I think, from that, then you can extrapolate that to the national level with, it paired with these voting reforms we're talking about, paired with making elections more competitive. We can bring that problem-solving brand to the state and national level, in 5, 10, 15 years.
Okay. Bryce has a question here. It says, my understanding is that a forward candidate could believe and run of very different positions depending upon their local beliefs. Can Holden explain how Forward Party is going to develop a national platform without a common set of values? I think you basically just did that. So if I understand this correctly, and based upon the Forward Party website and what I just saw with Andrew Yang on Bill Maher, is basically it doesn't matter what all of these national level problems are that we're talking about, gun control, UBI, pro-life, pro-choice, and all that, these huge federal, the things where people are getting out and they're voting for a president. We're looking more at the Ford Party building a grassroots from the ground organization to where basically, if you're looking at the community level, to where instead of worrying about all these big things like you mentioned, critical race theory, instead of mentioning these big things, you're talking about, hey, at the local level, we need higher paying jobs, we need the potholes in the roads fixed, we need a new school or a better school, we need people to be able to have clean drinking water and stuff like this. These are the things that the Ford Party is working on, and leaving the big things, because you got to start at the bottom. Is this what you're doing? Is this how I understand this?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. Like we have the local problems that we're capable of solving, we're capable of addressing in the next few years. And if we want to get to the point where we can address these national problems, that local work has to come first.
Okay, so it's a building from the bottom up. So now you have someone like I have a real good friend. He's just probably one of the most passionate people about Andrew and UBI and all of these other things. And he wants more action. He wants more things to be done. Like why aren't we doing this and why aren't we doing that? What would you say to someone that just like wants things to happen now? What do we do?
I would say get involved with your state Forward Party community, because, as I've been saying, the work of this party is happening at the ground level. It's happening at the local and state level. A lot of us are big fans of Andrew Yang, but this isn't Andrew Yang's party. This isn't, Yang 2020. This isn't a campaign for him. He is the founder and now the co-chair of the party. But the Forward Party is something different. It's a collection of state communities, local communities that are each trying to address their local problems. So to people who want more action, faster action, that happens with community involvement. That happens with, getting involved to start solving these problems. And then a year from now, if you have built out the community in your town, sorry about that. If you have built the community out in your town a year from now, you'll be in a position to reach farther than you are today.
Excellent. So basically, we need people to join the Forward Party in their communities and not worry about the national level aspect of it. Worry about the school board, the district supervisors for a county, the county legislative body that's writing the laws for the county, and the city commissioners and stuff like that. This is what we're looking at to get stuff done locally, and then building from there. And then if we can get enough counties and areas together to where they start growing and rebuilding, maybe then we could get a House Senate seat going, or a House congressional, or a House of Representatives seat going, and then build from there and basically infiltrate what we already have with better people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one of the biggest points to make too is that the Forward Party is not ignoring these national issues. We're saying if we want to be in a position to address these national issues, the groundwork has to come first. The groundwork of building a viable party has to come first, and then we'll be capable of addressing these national issues. But, it's not really a debate between one or the other. It's the groundwork has to come first. And, you're starting to see even some movement beyond the local level already too, where, for example, last week in Arizona, 4 House Democrats in Arizona came out as Forward Democrats. So they showed up, at the stage with Andrew Yang, and they identified as we're Forward Democrats now. And that, we're starting to see that kind of snowball effect, I think. But the more work that's put into, local organizing, the more that snowball can happen.
All right. All right. Asia's coming up with some great questions. Asia, don't think I'm ignoring you. I'm not. Shadow Fox, very good friend of mine. She can we remove the reference of fighting. Vote for me. I'll fight for you has to go. Too much time and energy spent on fighting and not producing solutions. Fight equals continuation, more of the same. Now, in a spiritual context, in a reality context, you get in a fight with somebody, then there's the revenge match, then there's the whatever match, and it's like Shadow Fox says, it's a continuation. A fight is not a solution. So instead of fighting for us, how about you are representing us to bring solutions? Instead of fighting for a solution, I'm going to produce the solution and have people vote on it. You get where we're coming from on this aspect of not fighting, because we're tired of people saying that they're going to fight for us and nothing gets done, and it just the fight continues. The fight continues. We've been fighting for equal rights for how long? We've been fighting for bodily autonomy for women for how long? We've been fighting for gun rights for how long? How about we stop fighting and we get things done? You see where we're going with this, right?
Yeah, I think what was the line on their website was do, like, we stand for doing, not dividing. I agree with that ethos. We're here to produce solutions, not to start fights.
All right. Now I'm going to go back up here because Asia had. Now this is where we're going to get more into. I guess let's see. We're probably going to get into more of the what does the forward party stand for, and then what I would like to know on some of these questions is what you stand for. So good to see you both. Let's see. Holden, do you think UBI will become more of a focus again for the forward due to the expected job displacement with advancement in AI? So in relation to, and I'm going to two-part that question. So how does forward party feel about it? And do you think that they're going to come back to it? And then what are your thoughts on it for you personally?
Well, for the forward party, it goes back to what we've been saying this whole time of UBI is an example of a solution that can't happen without significant groundwork. If we want to be in a position where we could realistically propose a UBI on a national scale like that, we have to have local forwardists, we have to have state forwardists, we have to have a network that's capable of supporting a national initiative like that. So I think there are, Andrew is still supportive of UBI. There's plenty of people in the forward party community who are still, supportive of UBI, but we're coming at it from a perspective of, we need to have a system that allows for changes like this. And right now we don't have that. So it's not, by neglecting to focus on UBI, it's not like abandoning UBI. It's saying we need a system that even allows this to happen in the first place. In terms of my personal thoughts on UBI, I am for the idea. I think the only concern is that you can't print money to pay for it. That's should be a very obvious concern, but and Andrew Yang's 2020 proposal, obviously included a value-added tax. It was a different setup. So that kind of proposal I am supportive of, because I think we're entering a new world where, the jobs aren't going to be replaced that are vanishing right now due to automation. The truck driving jobs, the call center jobs, retail workers. These jobs are not going to come back if they're done by a robot. And so we're entering a new age where we have to change the understanding, change our whole understanding of work and society, because it doesn't apply the same way that it has in the past. The jobs aren't going to bounce back. They're not going to, change into something else. There simply aren't going to be the jobs. But I know you were saying you have an answer for that. I'd love to hear your answer on your thoughts too.
Oh, well, in my book, I talk about a transactional tax. It's different than anything that any place else has ever done. We always try to tax the people, the working people. Let's make another tax for the corporations, another income tax, make them pay more, Abolish the income tax. abolish it completely. Transactional tax at point of sale. Everybody's buying something. Corporations are buying something. Corporations are selling something. People are buying and selling, buying and selling. Point of sale, 10% from the buyer and the seller. Tax them both. So you buy a brand new pair of shoes, you pay 10%, the seller pays 10%. Guess what? We get money from the corporations and from the people. And since 90% of the revenue in this country is business to business, not done by people like you and me, it's corporations doing business with each other, we would have 20 to 30 trillion dollars in revenue, which then we can afford a UBI, universal basic health, universal healthcare, universal education, daycare, a new retirement plan. We children 0 to 18 would have a UBI built up for them, so when they graduate high school, they can now have money waiting for them when they go into the real world. So yes, these are things that, again, if the Forward Party would take a look at this and read my book, we could be moving forward so much faster in so many ways. Let's see, Bryce.
I want to make one quick point on universal healthcare, because I wasn't a fan of that for a long time. You know, I was kind of opposed to it for many years, and what made me like kind of do a double take and start thinking about it again was the fact that the US spends a significantly greater percent of our GDP on healthcare than countries with universal healthcare. So,
Yes.
you know, the answer of where are we going to find the money for it, we're paying that now. Like right now, we're spending more on more percent of our GDP on healthcare, and we're having significantly worse outcomes. So yeah, I agree with you on that as well.
Excellent. Bryce, things like abortion rights and gun control affect it all, federal and local. And he is correct. At some point, you need a set of core common values. Many folks are uncomfortable with the lack of position. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's the most common thing that's keeping people away from the Forward Party right now. If they're, you know, if you're an independent or supportive of our goals with voting reform. I have heard a number of people say, you know, something like Bryce is saying here. My response would be, you know, we need a system that is capable of solving problems. You know, as I've been saying this whole time, if we start focusing on issues, you know, like abortion rights and gun control, while they are, you know, affecting a lot of people's lives, I don't want to discount, you know, the impact that policy related to these things has on people's lives. But if we try and focus on that, then we're, you know, jumping into this national fight without the capability to do anything about it. We're jumping into the national fight without an elected official who can do something about it. So my thought is, you know, we need, and again, you know, if you don't want to be with the Forward Party, let's work together on voting reform. Let's work together on a system that, you know, is capable of solving problems, brings competition back to our elections. So if you're on board with those things, but you ultimately disagree with a party that doesn't take a stance on abortion and gun control, you know, let's work together on voting reform, and then we can go our separate ways.
Okay. Bryce's response is, wouldn't it be better to call forward a comprehensive reform movement instead of a political party until they have a mature presence and the fundamental changes have been implemented?
I think, yeah, that's like a, you know, kind of a wording thing, is that an element of it is a reform movement where we are pushing for things like ranked choice voting, nonpartisan primaries, independent redistricting commissions, but we're also actively working to become a political party. So, you know, we're calling ourselves a political party because we're doing the work to get there, but that doesn't happen overnight. So there is, you know, a period of time where we're saying we're going to become a political party, but it's, you know, it takes a year or 2 years. In Texas, for example, in order to become a political party, you have to collect, I think it's 83,000 signatures or 82,000 in a short window of like a couple months. And that window is in 2024. So the Forward Party in Texas is, looking to become a party, but 2024 is the next opportunity they have to do that. So we're building towards a party, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Okay. Diana says that's a very political answer. How can you expect people to support you when you are unclear on where you stand on the issues that affect us now and then in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a political answer. I would say that we don't have mechanisms to change these things. The Democratic Party they claim to stand for abortion rights, but they didn't do anything about it. The Republican Party, I mean, you can find examples for both parties. They say the right words. I think that's more of a political answer personally. They say the right words, but they don't enact the policy because the system isn't designed to produce solutions.
Thoughts and prayers.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. So I think what we're looking at here then is basically right now, the Forward Party truly doesn't have the tools to do anything about abortion rights. They don't have the ability to do anything about gun control laws on the national level. They don't have the ability to do a UBI on the national level. So instead of focusing on national level issues that the words you used were the mechanisms, you don't have the mechanisms to go forward with these things. So then it's like, why discuss them? Let's talk about the things that we can have an effect on, like voting rights and new systems. Okay. So, in essence, I agree with that. But I think for what most people, and because of, all right, you are looking forward in a reality of what needs to be done to get you to a position to where you can do something on those things. And the mentality of the people today is TikTok. And here's what I mean by that. Scroll, 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 15 seconds, scroll, 15 seconds, scroll, 15 seconds, scroll. They want that, where do you stand so that I can help you build to have you do the voting reform to get to the position to stand for those things that I want. So I think what we need to do, if the Forward Party truly wants to build that momentum, this would be my advice to them, is take a stance on a few of these top things and tell them that here's where our position is on this, but this isn't where our focus is. And I think that's going to help bring people in. But I also see where Andrew Yang and the people at the top are probably coming from is we don't want people to not join us because we've taken a stand. We want people to join us because they see this initial problem of voting and we need to fix that. So let's fix this first before we get into the others. And then who knows, maybe down the road, Forward might become two different Forward parties. You might have a liberal Forward party and a conservative Forward party. But as long as we can get more parties in there, what does it matter? Is this how I'm taking it? And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And another point that I just want to echo again is that we're not looking for a 3-party system. We're looking for a 4, 5, 6-party system. We want a true multi-party democracy where these parties other than Democrats and Republicans and us can get elected too. Where, if you feel really passionately about abortion and you want a party that calls that out and also takes action on it, we want a system that allows for that party to exist too.
Okay, Shadow Fox said, can't your party take a position for human rights, equality, and liberty?
I mean, we have free people. thriving communities and vibrant democracy, which I think kind of touches on those points, but is like worded differently.
Okay.
If you disagree, if you think that's not a good answer, let me know.
It's not that it's not a good answer. I mean, I think it's an honest answer. I just think that I think it's a weak position on the part of the Forward Party. I kind of agree with what, some of these other people are saying is that, and don't take me wrong, because I think I understand what the Forward Party is doing. And in one way, I think it's brilliant because you're working on the ground level of what counts the most, people's votes. Okay. But I think the Forward Party is neglecting the fact that people in this day and age, they need the clickbait. All right. I mean, look at YouTube, look at all of the social media. Clickbait is what gets people. All right. And I know you guys want to get away from the clickbait, but because that's part of the system right now, I think you guys have to, even in a small way, jump on board with that to have people come to your side to help motivate and push you and bring you to the forefront of what's going on. So even though you may not take a stance on, the gun situation or the abortion situation, I think if you took a stance on at least this, human rights, equality, and liberty, I think if you made a strong stance on that, where we want to get an amendment passed, and I have one, by the way. It's called a True Equal Amendment, True Equal Rights Amendment. I usually have it up right here, front and foremost. But, anyways, I think if you took at least a stance on that, like, hey, we are going to bring equality and try to push for an equal rights amendment to where everybody can be treated equally without discrimination. I think that would be a strong stance because there's people on both the left and the right. There's people in the center that go for that. I think this is 70 to 80% of the population is for this. So I think that would be like a strong move that if you said, hey, we stand for equality for everyone, that we are going to propose an amendment when we, are able to do so to make sure that everybody is guaranteed equality under the Constitution. I think something like that, I think that would ignite people.
I think it's a bit of a wording difference because they don't say, call for an amendment, obviously, but the three, free people, thriving communities, and vibrant democracy is saying a lot of these things, like, we should have a culture that rejects hate, removes barriers to, equal potential, a fair economy where each of us can live a good life and live, be safe in the places we learn and live. I think, they're not calling for a specific amendment, obviously, because they haven't taken these kind of top line positions, but I think it is saying a lot of the same things.
Anything along those lines firmly stated would go a very long way. And I think that's where part of the problem comes in, is that it's not firmly stated. I don't think people take it as firmly stated. I have it right here. Listen to this. Section 1 of my True Equal Rights Amendment. The right of citizens of the United States to be free of discrimination shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, sex, age, color, gender, sexual preference, orientation, religion or lack of religion, marital status, country of origin, height, weight, mental or physical state of being, or previous condition of servitude. I think if you came out with something like that and you stood behind that as a main objective, that firmly states that you support things without ever having to come out and say you support, like the LGBTQIA community. That statement right there protects them. Black, brown, and indigenous people. If you were to go to tribunal2021.com, tribunal2021.com, the United States was found guilty on 5 counts of genocide against Black, brown, and indigenous peoples. Did you know this?
I did not. I had not heard of that site. No.
Exactly. And that's because these things are hidden, and our media doesn't want those things to be known. And yet, the people that are being harmed and the people that support the rights of these people are trying so hard to be heard, and they have no representation. And that's 70 to 80% of the population that wants something like this because of the information I just shared with you. So I think if Forward Party were to take any stance on anything, that should be their number one stance, because with that, you are going to draw people in. And then on the local level, Florida, we have counties that are banning books. Florida, don't say gay bill. It's more than just that. You have to go deeper into it, but that's what people have, called it. All these issues that are on a local level and local schools, local school boards, and stuff like that. If Forward Party on the local level were to say, hey, this is what we support on that national level, they can now get more people on the local level being represented in school boards and district supervisors. I think something like this would be a strong advocate for the Forward Party and would help move it forward even further.
Yeah. So let me like just go over the way that's set up too, because there, again, it is early on, so there, states will start, producing more clear priorities like that. So the goal is that national party sets the priorities as, free people, thriving communities, vibrant democracy, the principles, and then the states will set their priorities. So, out of those things, what are you prioritizing for your state? And then forward candidates will choose their platforms. So, each state they'll have their vetting process to make sure that each candidate, aligns with those overall principles, but each candidate will be responsible for their own platform, their own, specific policy items. So I think there was a comment, I forgot who posted it a couple minutes ago, that said, I would not vote for, I need to know your positions in order to vote for a candidate. So if a Forward Party candidate will make their positions clear, the candidates will set their clear policy agenda. The party itself is just saying, we're not going to dictate, specific things that you should adopt.
Okay. So you could have a pro-life candidate, you could have a pro-choice candidate, and the Forward Party is okay with that as long as they're working towards the voter registration and voter premise that you guys are going forward with.
As long as they're candidates who will find consensus. So, we're not going to have people who are gung-ho on either of those extremes. On the abortion debate, for example, I think most Americans fall in, the middle 80%. Most people don't support bans on abortion, and most people don't support, free abortion, or not free, but, the right to an abortion throughout the entire process. So if you're someone who's willing to find consensus in that center, then yeah, you could be a Forward Party candidate.
Okay. That's what we need right there. That's what we need right there, because that's pro-choice. Okay. That right there is pro-choice. Because if you're against the banning of abortions, and there has to be a process of up to a point, that is pro-choice. That's what the Forward Party needs to stand for. Because you just stated that you're not wanting extremes on either side. Okay. And pro-life extreme is ban abortions all over the country, ban it on a federal level. And this is where people want to get behind Forward Party, like myself. I want to, but I have to have something a little more solid. And that statement right there, if Forward Party would take that stance and put it in their platform, that right there would be solidifying. And that's what I think a lot of people are looking for in the Forward Party. They want some solidification in some of these topics to be able to jump on board and say, hey, I'm going to work on the community level like you want to get things going. And I think that would bring people, you know?
Yeah, and I'll say too that, this you're gonna see more concrete positions in the future. Again, we're a young party, but in Texas, for example, they did put out the Texas Forward Party put out a resolution opposing Texas's abortion ban. So at the state level, is where these concrete positions, we oppose this and we support this will happen. But the national party does not want to dictate that to states. So at the state level, though, is where it's happening. Like the Texas Forward Party last year put out that resolution.
Okay. Okay. I still think I still think up at the top, you still need to have some of those solidifying statements. And I think that will strengthen you because right now, like 80% of the country is against permanent abortion bans. That I guarantee, and that's 80% of the vote, And now, if you're doing this on, like I said, on a base level, I mean, it's just like you got kids that are going to school that are scared to go to school because they don't fit what states like Florida and Texas are pushing right now. And you got kids that are scared for their lives. I think that's something worth taking a stance on, And even though the Forward Party kind of breaches on that with what you were saying, I think it needs to be solid, especially with the fears that are going on, because you got to realize these two big political parties, they rely on fear mongering. Okay. Would you agree with that? They rely on fear mongering.
Absolutely.
Okay. If the Forward Party doesn't take a stand on things that these other parties are using as fear mongering and come out with the solutions of what needs to be done that is just, I just don't see, even with the way you're doing it now, I don't see you growing fast enough for the way the country is breaking down, because the country is breaking down rapidly. Okay. And I believe that if the Forward Party truly wants to bring in people like myself, people that are advocates for equality, people that are activists for diversity and inclusion, I truly believe that you're going to have to jump on board somewhere and make those solid statements as a party to truly start bringing people together from both sides. Because I can guarantee you there's people like Joe Walsh, which I would love to have you and Joe Walsh in a discussion on here. Would you be interested?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to try to get that set up. Someone like Joe Walsh, even though he is conservative libertarian, let's say, I think that's probably what would, best describe where his political aspects are. He's still for equality and equal rights. Okay. So there's common ground with somebody that was on the right, with somebody that a lot of people on the left that, again, Andrew Yang, when he ran, he pulled people from the left and the right. Okay. UBI, left and the right. People getting paid for their information, left and the right. If you start making some of these strong statements that people on the left and the right are getting behind, I think you're going to pull in and get those centrists and those moderates that you want. And you're also going to be bringing in people like myself, who's a leftist. Okay. This is the importance. Like Shadow Fox just said, and this is one of the things I fight for: human rights or property rights. Which is it that you stand for? You have to make the stand as the Forward Party for human rights over property rights, because if you don't, you're not going to grow the way you want to. The majority of people believe in human rights before property rights. And the problem that we have right now with corporate politicians on the left and the right is that they put corporations before us. People want to hear more about, what are you going to do for me?
Yeah, I think, personally, I try and push more issues like that impact people's lives. For example, the opioid crisis. 100,000 Americans are dying every year. what I see in the Forward Party is the freedom for somebody for like me to talk about that, to talk, and someone else to talk about the issue they're passionate about. So the party itself is not talking about these things because we're not at a place where it would be relevant yet. If Forward Party National put out a policy platform today, it probably wouldn't have much of an impact. It would be a top-down thing that they did because the states are, focused on their party building. And it might not resonate with people. It wouldn't be bottom up. So we're trying to build this bottom up thing. And what that does is it takes time. When there's a number of state parties that are built out, we'll have a summit this summer, we'll have a convention next summer. And you're going to see it start to come together more. But, again, it's not going to happen overnight.
Definitely not. Definitely not. I see a lot of good coming from this party. I see a lot of good people in this party talking about a lot of things that hold relevancy in a lot of ways. I think one of the biggest things that people want from the Forward Party is some more solidity on some of these harder issues. And I think that I think you're going to build. I think you're going to grow. And I think as more candidates run for office, I think as more people become known on the public purview, whether it be social media, mainstream media, I think that we're going to have a slow rise, but I think it's going to happen. I'm with a lot of these other people though when it comes to, we have a country that is collapsing in on itself and falling apart. And I just hope that the Forward Party can, with no better words than, get its shit together and get moving forward before it's too late. And I'm not talking for the Forward Party. I'm talking too late for the country.
No, I'm with you on that. I mean, I'm doing this work that I'm in the position I'm in because I think that local organizing is the way that happens. I think, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If we want to turn this country around, we have to have a groundwork that can support a viable party.
And that I agree with 100%. I do believe that the groundwork on the local level is the most important aspect. It's 100% on the local level. If it's not done on the local level and you can't see that change coming, it does no good. And this is why, again, I'm no longer a Democrat, because they talk shit on the local level and no results. And then on the federal level, I see what they actually vote on and they're all full of it, So I just hope that on the local level, you guys, I hope you bring that change. I hope it's rapid. I hope people see it, and I hope people start speaking up about it because, I
mean, the way I'm thinking about it is, with the Republican Party in the 1850s, they were founded in 1854, and Abraham Lincoln won the presidency in 1860. And there were, surrounding factors where the two-party system, at the time, the Whig Party was collapsing in on itself. So, they did have circumstances that were ready for a new party to come up. But it happened in 6 years because they put their heads down and did that work. Other third parties, if you, like modern third parties, for example, shoot for these national presidential campaigns. And so you shoot for the moon, you have this grand idea to reform at a national level, but you don't have any foundation to get it done. And if you just work on that foundation to get it done, the Republicans actually grew very quickly. I think if we take those first steps, build the foundation, I think it'll snowball relatively quickly because the people around this country are desperate for solutions. And if we can spend the next year or two proving that we can do it locally solving people's problems, I think it's going to start to snowball, and because people are desperate for something like this.
So technically what we have here with the Forward Party right now is about a 5 to 6 year plan of growing and becoming something. So that takes me back to, hold on, I had a question up here then. Let me go back. Let me find it. Hold on. Let's see. Give me a second. Boy, it's way up there. Boy, lots of
No
comments.
problem.
Lots of comments. All right. It's clearly growing. Would you say that a presidential run, Andrew or otherwise, is more likely in 2028?
Personally, yes. I can't speak for the Forward Party. This is not a discussion that has been had yet. No decisions have been made. But, if we can spend the next few years building that foundation, like I said, the Republicans were founded and 6 years later, they won the presidency. We were founded in 2022 and 6 years later would be 2028. So yeah, I think if we do the groundwork, it could happen.
Okay, revolutionary thinking. Hello, Ariel. Do you think calling out more of the two-party incumbents who don't do anything will give fuel for the Forward Party?
Potentially in terms of messaging, it could help out. But I don't know. I think, there's a lot of these people are getting called out quite a bit. I don't know that we'd be making a totally unique argument.
Okay. Unfortunately, these days Americans are addicted to red blue meat. Yes. I have a strategy for forward or more centrist meat, then calm the people down after that. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's about giving the people power, right? If we need a avenue for change to happen for the people.
All right. All right. That makes sense. So Andrew and Ariel for 2028. There we go. There we go. That's a ticket I would vote for. Andrew Yang and Ariel as VP. My vote is there. My vote is there. Okay.
Love to see it.
All right. Then I won't have to run.
You should run, Paul. Should get involved.
There's a potential that I might be running for a governor spot here in 2026 in California. If I don't do that, I might go for a representative seat in the House. Depending upon how things go and if we still have a country left, who knows? Maybe around 2032, I might make a presidential run. Who knows? There's a lot of people that I know a lot of my friends would endorse that. But again, what good does it do to be a president if you don't have progressive people in the House and the Senate that can get stuff done? So for me, I don't care who's president. I want representatives in the House and the Senate that's going to get stuff done for me. Okay. I want a UBI. I want to go to the doctor and not have to look up who my provider is or whatever. If I'm sick, I want to go to a goddamn doctor and get taken care of and not cost an arm and a leg. If I get a toothache and I need to go see a dentist, it shouldn't cost me $500 to get a goddamn tooth pulled out of my pocket because I don't have insurance. All right. I had an abscessed tooth for over 3 years. Okay. For almost 3 years. And I started going septic and had to go to the hospital. It almost killed me.
Wow.
And I'm not the only one out there that has that story. I am not the only one out there that has had to live through that or those that have died from it. In this day and age, the United States should not have people dying from an abscessed tooth, God damn it. So
100%.
These are the reasons why the people want to hear that the Forward Party is behind something, okay? Behind something a little bit stronger than we're just going to fix the election aspects. We want to hear that you're going to do things so we don't die and starve and, lose our home. People want to be able to feed themselves, So
one point I'll make on that quickly is that once the Forward Party is at a point where we're actually asking for your vote, where we have candidates that are out there asking for people to vote for them, they'll be saying those things. The candidates will have their platforms. So, at the point when we are going out and saying, please vote for us, the candidates will have the platforms to back that up.
Okay. Diana says, one more time, are you going to use social media as grassroots? I don't see your posts in my feed. Are you planning on making use of social media?
In terms of forward party organizing, yeah, we've been using, Discord and Twitter in terms to try and build out that community a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I know, because one of the things, if you're like on Twitter, you might have to hit your alerts, because like everything that Holden posts, I have him on my alerts. So anytime you post, I have your tweets. So I encourage those that you want to follow somebody that belongs to a party. Don't just follow them. Go up to the little bell that has the alerts and ignite that little bell so that anytime they tweet, you see what they're saying. Let's see. Quality of life policies. We can take a stand on that, and education. All right. Yes.
I mean, quality of life is thriving communities, right?
Quality of life is a roof over my head, food in my stomach, and the ability to provide for my children so they can go to college.
Yeah.
That's quality of life. And yes, that does start at the community with higher paying jobs, insurance that's affordable. And trust me, when you're working a 13, 14, $15 an hour job and your insurance costs, $300 a month, that's not affordable insurance, people. That is not affordable insurance. Okay. I worked in the casino industry. Most of the casinos I worked for, the most I ever had to pay out of pocket was $250 for a family plan, but I was making 60 grand a year. Okay. The lowest I ever had to pay was zero. I worked at casinos where insurance cost $0. Okay. So there are things that can be done and make things better for the people. And that's what I'm all about, making things better for the people. Ossia says, looks like Andrew may be doing another Twitter space soon. That is an incredible vehicle. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you can contact Andrew, I know there's a few other people on here that can contact Andrew. I would love to get Andrew on here and get him in a debate with another person on, from another party or forum, or even from Forward Party, and discuss issues. So I'm going to try to get Joe Walsh in here with you. And if we can get other people from Forward that would like to come on and debate some of these issues, I would also encourage any Republicans, any Democrats, any independents, come on here and debate the issues. If you're going to run for office, you're in office, I dare you to come on here. I dare you to come on here and have a debate with someone else, moderated by me, because I am going to get the answers from you, not the circular bullshit word salad that you throw out there. Thank you again, Holden. This has been an excellent thing. If anybody else has any last questions, one last question, somebody throw something up that you want to ask Holden before we go. Okay. This is a comment. We should hear voices, not just tweets and text. Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes. Anybody else have a question? If not, okay. Holden, thank you again for coming on. Did you have any last words or last questions or anything you want to put out there?
Other than, Twitter Space tonight, I host spaces every Monday, and I'm looking to start doing them on Thursdays as well about, the Forward Party and different topics related to it. So, if you're interested in hearing more, please join us. And Paul, I look forward to seeing you there tonight as well.
Yes.
And thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, and we will be doing this again. I guarantee it. We'll be doing this again. Remember, everyone, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you.
Thank you.